The night the storm touched the city, every clock in Boone's house stopped at 3:17 a.m. And though the world kept turning, his time refused to move forward. Because that was the exact minute Otten vanished. No goodbye. No script. No scene. Just silence, and an unfinished film that the world was never supposed to see. Boone was halfway through a dream when his phone lit up, a faint glow cutting through the darkness. No caller ID. No sound. Just a link, unnamed and untraceable. He clicked. A video began to play, grainy footage, time-stamped 6 months ago. He saw himself, in costume, drenched under studio rain, and across from him, Otten, smiling that same soft smile that never reached his eyes. Except, this scene didn't exist. It was never filmed. He remembered that day vividly. The crew had packed early because the power had failed. The director had called it off. Yet here, on his screen, was a moment that should have never happened. Otten looked at him and whispered, not a line, not a cue, but a sentence that hit like a heartbeat. If this part ever gets cut, promise me you'll still find me. Then the tape ended. Weeks later, Boone met with the editor. The film had wrapped. The trailers were ready. The press was hungry. But something was missing, a blank space where a scene should have been. Scene 48, Boone said. The one in the rain. Where's the footage? The editor hesitated. It wasn't approved for release. By who? He didn't answer, just slid a folder across the table. Inside, an official directive stamped removed by order of Otten Pasriya, the film's co-star and writer. But Otten hadn't been seen since that day. And his signature, it looked shaky. Almost forged. That night, Boone returned to the old rehearsal studio where everything had begun. The air smelled of dust and leftover perfume. The piano they used to practice beside still stood against the wall, untouched, but humming with memory. He pressed one key. A note echoed, and the lights flickered on by themselves. On the mirror, faintly written in condensation, were the words. The scene wasn't cut. It was hidden. Boone froze. His name was carved faintly beneath it. Someone, or something, had been here recently. He looked down at the piano again and noticed a folded sheet wedged under the keys. The paper was part of the original script, but with handwritten notes in Otten's looping pen. They won't let the truth air. So I'll bury it where no one looks, between take 5 and 6. Boone returned to the studio lot 2 nights later. The rain was falling again, just like in the lost scene. He wore a hood, his shoes splashing through puddles that reflected the dull orange of the security lights. Inside the old soundstage, dust danced in the projector beam. He found the marked tape reels on a shelf, all numbered but one. That one was labeled, Take 5.5, Do Not Project. Hands trembling, he loaded it. The screen flickered, static breathing like wind. There they were, him and Otten, standing face to face. The world around them was gray, silent. Otten's voice cut through. We only ever acted for the camera, Boone. But this? He stepped closer, eyes bright with tears. This is the only real take. Then the screen blurred, the reel burned out mid-frame, melting into nothing but smoke and the faint outline of 2 silhouettes holding each other. The following week, the studio released an official statement. Scene 48 does not exist. Any footage circulating online is fabricated. Otten Pasriya's disappearance remains a private matter. But the fans didn't buy it. Clips began to leak, a few seconds here, a frame there, every piece forming an unspoken confession. One line, whispered in static, began trending across every platform. If they cut me out, I'll still find you. A year later, the anniversary of the film's release brought crowds to its abandoned set. Someone had left white lilies on the floor where the final scene was shot, and a voice recording on an old cassette labeled Play Me. Boone pressed play. Otten's voice, soft and breaking. If you're hearing this, it means the truth survived. They cut us, but the story kept breathing. Don't mourn me, Boone. Just finish the reel. Then, silence. But as the tape stopped, the projector flickered on behind him. The screen lit up, and there it was again. The lost scene. Restored, complete. Otten standing in the rain, turning to him, whispering. We were never fiction. Months later, the restored film quietly appeared online. No studio logo. No credits. Just a single title card. The lost scene, what was cut from their final movie together. And in its final frame, Boone walking into the ocean, hand reaching toward the mist, where a faint, ghostly figure stood waiting. Some say it was just a clever CGI finish. Others swear they saw Otten's reflection move before Boone did. Every year since, Boone still visits that set. Sometimes fans catch glimpses of him sitting by the piano, the same one where the message appeared. And sometimes, when the studio lights flicker at 3:17 a.m., the rain starts to fall, even on cloudless nights. The locals call it the director's cut that heaven kept. And somewhere, between take 5 and take 6, two silhouettes still wait in that unmarked frame, frozen between fiction and forever. The rain hadn't stopped since the night Boone watched the forbidden reel. It drummed endlessly on his windows like a reminder, rhythmic, relentless, almost alive. Every droplet seemed to echo the same whisper, "Find me." He hadn't slept in days. The images looped in his head, Otten's trembling voice, the smoke rising from the melted reel, that look in his eyes that didn't belong to any script. But what haunted him most wasn't the tape. It was the faint reflection that appeared behind him in the footage, a figure that blinked a second too late. Boone tried to tell himself it was lighting. Glitch? Coincidence? But the mirror in his bedroom disagreed. Because at 3:17 a.m., every night since, a shadow appeared, standing right beside him, same height, same frame, the same stillness that once belonged to Otten. The studio had locked the set, but locks never stopped ghosts. Boone returned anyway. He moved through the corridors like a memory, each step echoing over the hollow floorboards where laughter used to live. The door to stage 4 was sealed with yellow tape. Restricted access, it warned. He tore through it with shaking hands. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with dust and silence. The rain had carved small rivers along the concrete floor, pooling beneath the spotlights that had once framed them both. And there, right where the cameras used to stand, lay a single film canister. No label. Just one word scratched into the metal, "Return." He knelt. His fingers trembled as he pried it open. Inside, a film strip, partially burnt but still intact, wound tightly like a secret trying to breathe. He held it up to the light. One frame at a time, Otten's face flickered through, smiling, crying, reaching forward. Then, in the final frame, Boone saw something that made his heart stutter. Otten's lips moved, just slightly, but there was no sound. So Boone lifted the reel to his phone flashlight, whispering what he thought he saw. "Come back to the mirror." Back home, the lights flickered again. Boone turned on every bulb, every lamp, every spotlight he could find. Still, the air felt cold, like someone else was breathing beside him. He looked at the mirror. For the first time, it wasn't foggy. It was clear, too clear, reflecting not his room, but the old rehearsal hall. The piano stood there again, glistening with raindrops though no rain could reach it. And sitting by it was Otten. He wasn't transparent. He wasn't pale. He looked real, heartbreakingly so. His hands rested on the keys, and he began to play the melody they wrote together, the one the director had ordered cut for being too personal. The sound filled Boone's mind even though the room stayed silent. Then Otten turned his head slowly, eyes locking onto Boone through the mirror's glass. "They took our scene," he whispered. "But they can't take what the rain remembers." The reflection rippled, and for a heartbeat, Boone saw himself sitting beside him, hand reaching out, the two of them frozen in a moment the world had never seen. Then the mirror cracked. He woke on the floor. The mirror had shattered into 7 pieces, and each shard reflected a different image, not of his room, but of scenes that didn't exist. In one, Otten was walking down the old pier. In another, he stood under studio lights, smiling as if waiting for the director's cue. And in the largest shard, Otten faced the camera, whispering, "You didn't finish the reel." Boone scrambled to his feet and gathered the shards. When he placed them together, the fragments aligned to form a single phrase carved in reflection. Final cut, storage room 9. The next night, Boone found himself back on the lot. Security lights hummed softly. The entire studio seemed to breathe in rhythm with his steps. Storage room 9 was deep underground, a place for reels that never made it to daylight. The air was cold, thick with celluloid and memory. Rows of shelves towered above him like tombstones, each marked with forgotten names. And at the very end, beneath a sign that read "Archived, Cancelled Projects," he found it. A box labeled Scene 48, Confidential. His heart stuttered. He reached inside. It wasn't film this time. It was a photograph, a still frame from their final shoot. He was standing in the rain, head lowered, and behind him, Otten's reflection appeared in the puddle, smiling faintly, though Otten hadn't been there that day. Taped to the back of the photo was a small note, faded by moisture. "This isn't our ending. Play the reel backward." He didn't understand at first. But back at home, he loaded the damaged film into the old projector again. The reel hissed, the image flickered, and he reversed the playback. The sound distorted, then cleared. Otten's voice filled the room, soft and solemn. "You kept your promise, didn't you? You found me." The footage reversed to the very first second, before the rain, before the camera rolled, and Boone saw something he had missed before. Otten's hand, slipping something into his coat pocket. A key. He reached into the same pocket of the coat he'd worn for the shoot. It was still there. Rusted, cold, and real. Etched along its edge, Stage 4, door behind the curtain. Boone didn't wait till morning. He drove back through the rain, headlights slicing through the mist. Inside Stage 4, the silence was heavier than ever. He walked toward the main curtain, the one they'd used for their last performance together. Behind it was a narrow door he'd never noticed before. The key turned easily. The hinges groaned open, and the smell of sea air rushed in. A small hidden room stretched out before him, walls lined with film reels, candles burned halfway down. And there, projected faintly on the far wall, was their scene, full, uncut, alive. Otten looked straight at the camera, water streaming down his face, lips trembling between tears and laughter. "They can cut the film," he said. "But not the story we lived." Boone stepped closer, and for the first time since that night, the reel didn't end in smoke. It kept playing, until the two of them met again in the rain. Hands reaching, light breaking. A story finally finished.